Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. This story, it is so exciting that I myself have watched it 3 times. If you like this video, do not be lazy to like and subscribe to the channel. Enjoy watching. When my wife went to visit her parents in another city, I didn't think much of it. It was a usual thing, just a couple of days apart. The day passed like any other. Work, calls, a bit of housework. We talked on the phone in the evening. I wished her a good night and, turning off the light, settled down to sleep. But that night changed me forever. I woke up suddenly, as if someone had pushed me. The room was quiet, but this silence didn't feel normal. It was heavy, thick, like a cotton cocoon stretched over my ears. The clock showed 3:33, the time always associated with something ominous. They say that at this moment, the boundary between our world and something otherworldly becomes especially thin. It was at this moment that I felt something was wrong in the room. The sensation of an alien presence was unbearable. At first, I thought it was just a dream or the result of my imagination, but everything changed when I realized that I couldn't move. Sleep paralysis. I was familiar with it, but this was different. I was lying on my right side, facing the wall, and I heard someone breathing heavily behind me. This breath was not human. It was deep, strange, with a slight wheeze, as if something was capable of breathing not through its nose, but through its entire body, filling the air with thick, suffocating horror. With each breath, it grew louder, and I realized it wasn't just behind me. It was all around me, penetrating the very fabric of space. I smelled it, damp earth and something rotting. The smell was so strong it made me nauseous, and it felt like it was sinking into my skin, as if this decay had now become part of me. The floor behind me creaked. In an old wooden house, creaks were common, but this was a clear, measured sound, like someone was creeping carefully. I tried to convince myself it was just a mouse or a random shift in the wood, but with each new step, the sound grew closer. A slow, ominous creak seemed to mock me. I tried to find the strength to turn my head slightly, but my body felt alien. The only thing I could do was breathe, fast and shallow. My heart pounded so loudly that it seemed I could hear it in my temples. These sounds filled my consciousness until new ones appeared. A soft growl, hoarse, as if coming from the throat of a long-dead creature. This growl soaked the air around me, making it thick and still, as if the air itself had frozen. And then I saw her. In the moonlight that streamed through the window, a silhouette appeared. This wasn't just a creature. It moved slowly, its steps measured and smooth, like a predator stalking its prey. Each movement was filled with a sinister certainty, as if it already knew the outcome of this encounter. Its hunched back swayed slightly, and its long, broken limbs touched the floor with barely audible creaks, heightening the tension. Every motion seemed so unreal, I couldn't tell if it even existed in the physical world. It felt like it was watching me, and there was something so ominous in its gaze that I was ready to give up everything for it to disappear. It was something hunched, covered in patches of dirty fur. Its head was elongated, and its eyes bright red, like smoldering embers. Those eyes didn't just look at me, they pierced through me, making all my fears surface. I felt exposed before this being, as if it saw right through me, reading my thoughts. I couldn't move, couldn't close my eyes. I was like a prisoner, and it knew it. When it reached the edge of the bed, I felt its touch. Its paw was icy, with long fingers ending in razor-sharp claws. At that moment, I wanted to scream, but my throat wouldn't obey. Even a mental scream was suppressed by some unfathomable terror, as though something tightened inside me. It felt like this cold was sinking deeper, freezing not just my skin, but my very soul. At that moment, I heard a voice. It was thin, yet foreign, as if coming from several throats at once. The voice was agonizingly familiar, and it lingered in my head, whispering even after I woke up. "Do you remember me?" it hissed. My heart almost stopped. This voice belonged to the same girl from my first sleep paralysis experience. Years ago, I convinced myself it was just a figment of my imagination, but now she was back. "I told you I would come back for you," she continued, her voice full of malice, as if she took pleasure in my suffering. I tried to gather all my strength and turn, but it was a mistake. As soon as I started to move, my body seemed to snap in half. I can't describe the horror. My legs were at my head. I felt my bones bending at impossible angles. But there was no pain, only panic. I felt like a puppet in the hands of something that defied all natural laws. It felt like I was a doll, being twisted into cruel poses by some unseen black hands. She laughed. That laugh was inhuman. It was low, piercing, coming from everywhere, as if the walls of the house echoed with it. This laugh seemed to fill all space, penetrating every corner of my soul. I felt like this sound would haunt me forever, like a background noise that I couldn't escape. "We will meet again," she whispered before everything disappeared. I woke up. Sweat was dripping down my face. The clock still showed 3:33. My head was indeed at the bottom of the couch, and somehow my legs were on the pillow. I looked around the room, hoping to find some sign that this was just a dream. But the air in the room still smelled like decay, and the feeling of her presence didn't fade. I tried to convince myself it was all just a trick of the mind, but everything felt too real. On the floor next to the bed, I noticed a faint trace, as if someone had left a muddy print with wet paws. I closed my eyes, hoping that when I opened them again, it wouldn't be there, but the mark remained. In the weeks that followed, I felt that something invisible was stalking me. Sometimes at night, I would wake up feeling like someone was standing by my bed, watching me. But every time I opened my eyes, there was no one there. I began to notice how shadows in the corners of the room moved when there should have been nothing alive. This didn't feel like simple fear. It was a sense of inevitability that penetrated me to the core. Every time I saw the clock showing 3:33, I felt like she was watching me. Sometimes I would feel a slight draft, a cold touch on my leg, or hear the creak of the floor where no one should be. I started to fear the dark, avoid looking at reflections in mirrors, because one night I saw her silhouette standing behind me in the mirror. I wanted to scream, but the sound was trapped in my throat, and the shadow disappeared just as suddenly as it had appeared. The worst part was that her image wouldn't leave me even in the waking world. At work, in the store, on the street, I kept feeling her presence, as if her gaze could pierce through walls. A few times, I caught my reflection in glass and saw her standing in the background. In those moments, I began to choke, and panic completely overtook me. I tried to ignore it, thinking that maybe I was losing my mind. But one night, I woke up to the sound of footsteps outside the bedroom door. They were slow, measured steps, and then I heard the sound of scratching, as if claws were scraping against wood. I knew I had to check, but my body wouldn't obey again. The only thing I could do was lie there and wait for her to reveal herself once more. And then, one night, I decided to write all of this down. Maybe it would help me understand what was happening. But as I write, the clock again shows 3:33. The room is growing darker, and I hear that same sound. Creak, heavy breathing. I do not want to turn around, but I feel she is already here. She's waiting, and this time I fear I won't be able to wake up. Here is the end of the story. Share your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you think of this story. See you soon, friends.